CTV political analyst Eric Ham, who covers U.S. politics for us. Eric, not a big surprise. Your takeaways here.
Yeah, you're right. Not a big surprise, but as you mentioned, this is a very unpopular bill. And while the president certainly got his victory, this is going to be a Pyrrhic victory for the American people. Because as you mentioned, many of the most vulnerable in this country are not only going to lose their health care, but many of the most vulnerable, particularly children and seniors, are also going to lose their what we call SNAP benefits, which is food stamps and other social safety net programs that provide food and things like that to individuals, so that this tax cut for the wealthiest of Americans can actually be paid for. It also raises the debt ceiling. We know that's always been a massive political fight in Washington, but it raises that by $5 trillion. And as we heard from the Independent Congressional Budget Office, they say that over a decade, this will add an additional $3.3 trillion in debt to the overall deficit, to the overall deficit. And so this is a massive bill. The president will certainly celebrate. Many Republicans will as well. But next year, we could see a potential bloodbath for the Republican Party as they look to hold power in Washington as a result of what took place here today.
What do you think those conversations sounded like, Eric, between some of those reluctant Republicans, and there weren't many of them, but between them and either the president or his surrogates to say, look, guys, whatever you think, you better fall in line?
Well, not only that, but one of the things that the president is actually saying and actually using as to why these deficits will not happen is he is saying that the money where the gaping hole will be in terms of the deficit, that will be made up by revenues coming in through tariffs. Now, we know that Donald Trump's signature economic policy has been the tariffs that he has placed on other countries, specifically Canada. And we know now the president has been using that, touting that as how he will close much of the deficit as a result of the passage of this legislation. And clearly, many Republicans actually bought that. And so while the president is saying that there are going to be a number of trade deals that will be made, we're still seeing that the president is heavily reliant on this idea of tariffs, and that being a key conduit to actually bring in revenue. And quite frankly, that just hasn't panned out. But nevertheless, he was able to sell that to a number of these Republicans to get the votes that he needed.
Now, what does this mean for the midterms next year? Your thoughts on how Republicans may or may not pay for it at the ballot box. Of course, that's not an issue for the president. He's in his second term. But for some of them, if you're talking about how this bill is unpopular with a lot of Americans, including some Republicans who may not be aware of the impact it'll have on their own lives, then what in November of 2026?
Well, we have to look at, first of all, a number of people, as I said, they're going to lose their health care. So we're talking about as much as 12 million people who will lose that. In addition to that, we know that there are a number of programs that also will be eliminated, programs to like the Pell Grant for students applying for college and financial aid to pay for college. Many of them are going to lose those resources as well. So we're talking about tens of millions of Americans that are going to be impacted by this legislation. Food programs will also be impacted. Seniors, veterans also are going to be impacted by this legislation because they are going to lose their health care as well. And to say nothing of what's called the SALT program, which is actually a program that actually provides relief for people living in high rent districts that have been able to receive tax credits on their homes. They also are going to lose access to those invaluable tax credits when you're talking about people who are living in areas like New York City, Los Angeles, places where housing values are exorbitant. They will no longer be able to claim those tax credits. And so there are so many people that are going to get hit by this legislation that the president is going to sign into law tomorrow. And many of those people are going to be furious when they see the resources that they are losing as a result of it. And certainly they're going to blame their representatives as a result.
Our political analyst covering U.S. politics, Eric Ham, joining us with his take on the vote just in the House of Representatives to pass Donald Trump's so-called big, beautiful bill. Thank you, Eric. We'll talk again.